You're listening to Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. On each episode, we sit down with key industry experts to discover more about what's happening in the world of learning and development, from current trends and insights to the most valuable lessons learned along the way. Join us for a fresh perspective on all things training and the best direction forward. Here's your host, Leanne Langford.
Hi, welcome to Learning Leader Spotlight, the podcast where we interview the learning leaders of today to help the learning leaders of tomorrow. I'm your host, Leanne Langford. I'm the president of Training Pros. Training Pros is a learning and development contract staffing company where we like to say, when you have more projects than people, let us find you the consultant to start your project with confidence. I'm really excited about my guest today. Today, I wanted you to welcome with me Liz Ramon, Director of Talent Management at Castle Group. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited to be part of the conversation.
We are really excited to have you here. I've had a couple conversations with you, and they've been really great. So I can't wait to hear what we talk about today. But before we get started, can you share with our audience just an overview of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, thank you for that. I am Liz Ramon. At a high level, I help organizations optimize their talent potential and enhance their talent's performance. I work across all areas of talent management, but my primary focus is in learning, just to ensure that people have the skills and the confidence and the support that they need to kind of effectively walk them through every stage of their career. Currently, I have a strong focus on developing leaders who know how to engage their teams. My goal is always the same. It's to kind of build leaders who not only deliver results, but who elevate their people, right, and their organization and their culture. But ultimately, it all revolves around creating learning experiences that are practical and relevant, right, and can immediately be applied in their current role.
Well, your job sounds not only great and fun to do, but also you're doing a lot of good in the world while you do your job. So it's always
It is a lot of fun. Training is just fun and fulfilling, and it's rewarding, and I love it.
I couldn't agree more. You've kind of said a few of the things about learning and development that you love. What first attracted you to being part of learning and development?
I don't think my story is unique. I kind of stumbled into it. Just stumbled into L&D by chance or destiny, not sure. I went in for an interview at a staffing company for an administrative assistant role many, many, many years ago, and ended up being offered a coordinator position in the training department. And then a few weeks later, I sat in on training class for the first time, and I just watched the facilitator in complete awe, just completely transform the room and ignite everybody. And just seeing that impact, that learning could have on people in real time, watching it happen before my eyes, it just hooked me. And I just knew this is the kind of work I want to do. You can see people's confidence shift, right, as they're learning new skills. It was incredibly powerful to watch, and I just wanted to be a part of it. So it kind of was part of what attracted me to it, just watching the people grow and transform and develop. They show up differently after training classes. They speak up more, they trust themselves more. They just show up in different ways, and it's very, very fulfilling, and I enjoy it.
That's a great story. I know you said it's not unique, but all these stories are unique, and I just find them so interesting.
I've just heard it a lot from a few people. Nobody sets out to go, I'm going to be in training one day and learning and development. And it's just, I just stumbled across it, and then they find their passion and they love it.
I was the same way. I was hired in, and it just happened to be, they put me in it was the HR department, but they had a training manager there. And I was just so fascinated by everything she was working on. I was always in her office going, how else can I help you? What else can you do?
That was me too with my VP in that same company. She's been such a big impact in my life. She probably doesn't even realize it, but I will forever go back to her because I would just go to her with all these questions. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? And wow, well, why do we do it that way? Oh, that makes sense. It was just fascinating. So, yeah.
Well, you said you've been here a while. I'm not going to try to name years, but
On time.
what are the most impactful changes you've seen in learning and development, say, in the last few years?
I've seen, and maybe it's even been longer than the last few years, but there's been this shift for on-demand, quick, fast, right? Learning at your fingertips, micro-learning. Learners have moved away from wanting these long, dragged out, formalized training sessions, right? They're gravitating more towards short, targeted content, and you could see that, I think, just watching the success of platforms like YouTube and TikTok, right? Which are now literally training people, on how to do the quickest, sometimes the most complicated things, in a matter of a minute. You could just look it up and there's a video and you follow along. And that's what, the learning community is really looking for. So I think L&D has followed that trend by delivering those short videos, those micro lessons, those just-in-time resources kind of at your fingertips, whether it's a job aid or an e-learning, or a short, webinar or things of that nature. I think that's been the most impactful change I've seen, that's been ongoing for the last few years.
I do agree with that. And any of us with Gen Z kids probably could have predicted this, because I would watch my kids. They just look up something on YouTube, watch a 1.5-minute video and know how to do it.
In seconds.
And I remember I was leaving to go out of town for a 1-day program, and my oldest child was like, "Why are you going in person? Can't you just learn this online?"
Yeah. It's so funny how comfortable they are with that space, right? Not everyone is, but the majority of learners are very comfortable in that online space now, which is fascinating to see.
Well, it's been there their entire lives. So.
Yep. It's all they know. It's all they know.
Yes. Well, so let's shift to the future then. Where do you see us going? Where's L&D going in the next few years?
Well, I think even just touching on what we were just saying, we're kind of in a unique moment where there are multiple generations, working together at the same time, right, in the workforce, and they all learn and show up differently. So L&D has to kind of meet people where they are. It's no longer a one size fits all, model, right? We have to be flexible. We have to have practical learning that works across all of their styles and their expectations, right? I think we're going to see a huge trend as more tenured employees exit the workforce. There's a huge opportunity and responsibility for L&D to work closely with those subject matter experts to capture that institutional knowledge before it's lost. I think learning will be more embedded in the flow of work, right? Obviously, there's a lot of support from technology and data, but it still has to be humanized, By the end of the day, people connect with people. And yes, technology is great, but that connection is still very unique and very, very special in the workforce just in general. I also think leaders are going to be expected to coach more, especially new emerging leaders. Right? They're going to be expected to do things they've probably never done before. It's coaching and mentoring. And I think L&D is going to play a more strategic role in preparing those new and emerging leaders for those skills that they don't necessarily have experience with.
I think you've hit some topics that I hear pretty frequently when I ask that question. So, coaching it's gone next level, especially
really
with the tools available for it.
Yeah.
And people are using AI coaches now.
Oh, yes. AI is a huge impact right now. Huge, huge impact. It's exciting to watch and be a part of and stand back and look at it all kind of happen before your eyes. It's very cool. It's a cool time.
It is a fun time. And I'm really excited by learning in the flow of work. When I was coming up in L&D, learning the craft and getting, completely skilled in it, learning the flow of work meant having robo-help, the little help that you can. And it changed so much now, and it's just really become very intuitive. Like I'll be working in a tool and it'll like pop up a little button that in a little bubble that says, "Hey, can I help you do this?" I'm like, "Why, yes, you can."
Yep. It walks you through the steps. You don't have to, necessarily record everything to memory. Those tools are helping us be more efficient and giving us the opportunity to make space for other areas that need our attention, right? Creativity and strategic, planning and things of that nature. So I find it fascinating.
It really is. I'm excited to see where we're going in 2026. So um, it should be a lot of fun to learn as we go. And we have to learn a lot because everything keeps getting updated and changed.
Change is a constant.
So let's shift gears a little bit. And can you reflect back on who has been your most influential professional mentor?
Oh, there's been so many. I've been blessed. I've had a lot of influential mentors. I think the ones that have the most impact on me have been those that led with kindness, and courage. They always created a space for me to learn. They encouraged questions. They invested their time in mentoring me, not just on skills, but on confidence and judgment we forget about. It's not just the skills, right? It's those soft skills that are important as well. They always push me to think bigger, speak up sooner, right? Lead with both heart and accountability. We lead people at the end of the day, right? So through their examples, I've learned just that the best, mentors don't always have all the answers. They build trust, they empower you, they model empathy, they help you believe in yourself. I go back to, my VP of training and that first job. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in this field today. She could have turned me down flat, when I said, I want to do that, like that interests me, right? She encouraged that. She nurtured that. And, I still keep in contact with her. I'll name drop her because I love her so much. Her name is Nancy Halverson. She actually lives in the Atlanta area in Georgia. And I just absolutely remember her with such kindness and fondness and really setting me on a course to where I am now. And if she hadn't taken that chance on me, I wouldn't be, in the phase of my career that I'm at. So I think that's very important, is to have mentors that believe in you and take the time and invest in you and do it with kindness and with love and, and with empathy, encouragement.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm a big proponent of mentorships, not necessarily the formal programs, which are great, but I think everybody, once you've made it into leadership, you should mentor someone.
Absolutely.
And when I heard your story about, you're coming to her saying, I want to do that, I want to do what you do, I can tell you when a young person comes to me and says that to me, I'm so excited. I can't wait to help them. They just don't do that very often.
I know it does happen. And when it does, first of all, you even go, you want me to show you? Wow. I'm honored. I'm thrilled, right? That you would look to me as your guide and your mentor. And then I get excited. I'm like, okay, where do you want to start? Following what area of learning and development do you want to talk about today? Adult learning theory, design, and what do you want to talk about? And I enjoy it. I enjoy even going back down memory lane and what I learned years ago and how I learned it and how I implement it, right? And walking somebody through their journey is, like I said earlier, it's very powerful to see people develop their confidence, and just transform. I've always said, I hope one day I'm working for someone I trained. I want them to be my boss one day. That would be such a proud moment. Like, you did it. It's such a great opportunity. I always tell my people that, like, I want to work for you one day.
Oh, that's fantastic. I remember I took an intern in many years ago, right out of grad school, and she worked for me. I literally had to finally kick her out, go, okay, we're going to find you a job. You shouldn't be interning anymore. You're ready. Let's go. So we worked together to find her a job. Last year I interviewed her on this podcast because she's a leader.
Oh my God. Isn't it great?
I was like,
what a special moment.
Yeah.
That's precious. I love that.
It was a big moment for me. I think it was great. But I mean, that's the beautiful moments you can get from being a mentor.
Right. Right.
Well, let's shift gears again. And what do you think is the most important skill for people in the workforce to have right now?
Well, I think adaptability, paired most importantly with self-awareness. I see that a lot right now. I think self-awareness is huge. Change is constant, right? As I said earlier, the pace isn't slowing down, whether it's AI technology coming your way, expectations, are growing, how and where we work is different. I think leaders who thrive are the ones who can pause and reflect and understand how their behavior impacts others, while also learning and adjusting, their approach when needed. But self-awareness seems to be something that, I see a huge need for. I think people should spend a lot of time in that space, getting to know who you are. This is what keeps leaders grounded and human, adaptability keeps them relevant. I think that combination of the two, allows leaders to kind of navigate uncertainty with confidence, right? And bring stability, clarity, and trust to their teams. Even in the middle of all the change that just never ends.
Well, again, adaptability and change kind of go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah. It's a necessity. You have to adapt, you have to pivot. If COVID taught us anything in the L&D space, wow, did we have to pivot and pivot fast. Even in the world of academia, and in school, I have a lot of teacher friends, and the panic, that sets in when now you have to go online to teach small children, right? Everybody had to pivot very quickly and just get comfortable with the uncomfortable very, very fast.
Very bad. Yes, there was a lot of big changes that happened, even just in my household for COVID. I had
Oh,
college
yeah.
students, and suddenly there's teachers trying to teach them online, and I was cracking up listening to one of the classes because they're teaching these, 19-year-olds exactly click by click how to do something online. I'm like, "You just point to where they're supposed to do it. They're done. They
I
got it."
had the exact same experience. I have twin boys, and, they're taking their classes online, literally behind me while I'm in a meeting on Zoom, and just hearing how quickly they were grasping on, to those technical advances and changes and tools that they were using was fascinating to me. You could take me an hour to figure out what to do on Teams right now. Give me a minute. And they were so quick. It was really wonderful to kind of experience that. I remember taking note many times during the pandemic, going, wow, to be alive and experience this at this time. Not many people or generations can say that, and to witness the power of what the learning environment, and the impact that that's having on humanity right now, as, L&D professionals are having to train everyone, on skills that they didn't have. It was a great thing to just zoom out and kind of watch from the outside in.
That's a great perspective. That's one of the things I learned many, many years ago was that the most difficult times you go through turn out to be a great story years later.
Very true. You may not want to see it until years later, but it's true.
You have to go through it, but
Exactly.
it really does become a great story
It
later.
really does. It really does. Wow.
Yeah. So, Liz, what is your favorite source for industry news and information?
Oh, there's so many good ones. I kind of rely on a mix. Trusted resources. I really go a lot to training industry and ATD. That's been my go-to for years. I go to them a lot for like trends, articles, research, right? Just to see what's shaping the field, right? Things on a strategic level. But I also really like, just keeping an eye on LinkedIn, where the real world practitioners are, and watching as they share like actual, examples and things that's going on in their organizations, right? Or in their world, or trends that they're seeing. That combination, has really helped me, just stay abreast of it all. And there's a lot. There's a lot of changes. I like going to the conferences. The Training Magazine conference that's hosted in Florida is a really good one. To go to. You really meet a lot of talented experts there and can gather so many great resources and ideas. And sometimes you just hear something repeated again and you know what? I haven't used that in a while. Let me pull that out of my tool belt, and bring it back to life. So those are great.
That's great. I haven't been to the training conference in a while. I should go this year.
I spent several years, MIA, and I went back a few years ago, and I remembered how great it is, to just sit there and going from all these different sessions and and listening to different people in the field and their experiences and what they're currently doing, and everybody sharing challenges, right, and how they're overcoming them, and it was a really great experience.
That's great. You know what? Definitely, I will look into that one for this year. I try to rotate through which conferences I go to.
I want to go to the ATD one. That's on my list.
Oh, it's in Los Angeles this year.
Right where the Olympics are going to be. Oh, I wish it was at the same time.
I went there last year, but it was in Washington, D.C. I think LA more fun.
Yeah, probably.
So, in your opinion, what is one book that everybody who wants to be you, have your job, what should they read?
Well, this isn't a book that's exactly a traditional learning and development book, but The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, the one and only. I know, it's just such a foundational book for anyone moving into L&D leadership and any leadership role. I mean, before you can design learning for others, you really have to understand, self-leadership. You have to understand, behavioral change, how people build habits over time. And that's what that book kind of does and reinforces, right? It really focuses on effective leadership that starts from inside, from you, right? That self-awareness I was talking about, and focusing on that self-leadership first is only going to make you, better at leading others or developing learning that sticks, right? With your audience. It's just such a book about character. Sometimes I look at it that way, and it's just my go-to. I use it every time, and I think of, the tools that he taught in that book, that win-win strategy. It helps you really look at things from different perspective. It needs to be beneficial on both sides of the house, whether it's for the organization and the individual, right? It can't just be one-sided all the time, and looking for that win-win, right? Having that growth mindset of where's the opportunity here? Here's a challenge, right? There's an opportunity. So there's a win in here. We just have to find it. Sharpening the saw. I mean, that's what we do in L&D is we train, right? We develop people. So having this foundation in this book that just tells everyone, you should sharpen your saw. You should invest in yourself. It'll be the greatest investment you've ever made. And, so I love that book. I will forever love that book.
So that's a wonderful reminder about that book. I mean, it's been many years since I read it. And you're making me want to go read it again.
I know. I always have it on my desk. It's always nearby. I have so many copies of it, so I'm always getting it out, and I'm always looking at, begin with the end in mind. Seek first to understand. My team's pretty tired of hearing me talk about it, but there's just so many great lessons there that you can apply to anything.
I do have one of his lessons. So I keep inspirational quotes up around my desk, and one of them is about the circle of influence.
Oh, yes.
Changing the questions you're asking will get you in a different state of mind about the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many great lessons. I love it.
It definitely has gotten me through some really tough times when I'm like, people are like, wow, you have such a good attitude about, this drama going. I'm like, well, change my question.
Yeah, it's all about mindset and looking at things from different perspective. Hey, asking different questions, seeing it from another lens, always helps. And as human beings, we're just conditioned, right, to seeing it from our own perspective and our own point of reference. And that's absolutely natural because you're going to bring your own unique perspective to it that no one else can see. So that's very, very valuable. But being able to sit at the table and look at it from, I mean, I often sit at the table with many departments and they all have different needs, and all they could see is their needs and what they need to accomplish, for this task and what the outcome needs to be. But I can, kind of I can circulate the room and go, I could see where you're coming from because you need this training program that I'm putting together to deliver this. All right. You need for it to deliver that. And understanding the needs of the business and the different, leaders that you work with is what's ultimately going to make you design and deliver a program that is effective. You could design and deliver, I say it all the time, I could design any training program, but if it doesn't meet the needs of the business, I've designed nothing. So it's important to be able to see that, I think.
Well, on that wonderful statement, I think that we're going to wrap up this episode of Learning Leader Spotlight. Liz, you have been an amazing guest. You've given us some really great insights, and I just want to thank you for the time you've taken to share with our audience.
Well, I'm going to take it right back, and I'm going to thank you, Leanne, because this was a great opportunity. And like I said, I love being part of the conversation and just talking to other, learning professionals about what we do. And I really appreciate you reaching out to me and inviting me here today. And we've had great conversation, and I hope we continue to chat and inspire each other. I love it.
I hope we do too. As my thank you to you, you probably already know our charity at Training Pros is we plant trees in the world. And so we're going to plant 5 trees on behalf of you for coming on this show.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, that's what you get with a woman-owned company. We want to
I love that.
do nice things in the world. That's who
I love that so much. I love that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And that's it for this week's episode of Learning Leader Spotlight. We'll hope you'll join us again next week to hear from another learning leader from another industry.
Thanks for joining us for the latest episode of Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. You'll find links in the show notes to any resources mentioned on today's show. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review.